Welcome to the Marketing Rapport podcast. I'm the host, Tim Finnigan, and this is a very exciting time for us. We are taking the podcast on the road. So the interviews that you're going to see next and some of the information you're going to get is all from the CES conference here in Las Vegas. So we've done a great job of getting some guests on here, some of the employees, contacts. I'm excited to share this with you and enjoy. Have a great 2026. Hello, Kelly Barrett. How you doing?
I'm doing so well.
Good. So welcome to the Marketing Rapport podcast. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day here at, or week at CES in Las Vegas. I'm so excited that you're here because you've started a new role at Samba TV. Could you just give us a little sneak peek into what you're doing at Samba and maybe what you did at TrueSet and ComScore?
Yeah, great. So Samba, I am head of product globally, every product from the start of our data collection all the way through what our clients use in various different forms, various different use cases. Samba, and I'm going to stop using the TV portion because we are going to be officially dropping that and just be Samba. We do a lot more than TV. We have web intent data. We have a lot of identity. We have a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of use cases for our clients that are not just around TV. So we're bringing that world together and announcing Samba as the full brand. You'll see that all come out.
And just think about all the money you can save on like the typeface and the ink that you don't have to put that on there.
And it's a lot easier to explain, especially in this world where we are looking at consumers not just under one screen, one lens, but across everything that they touch, from media, content, advertising. We're doing a lot of big things around sponsorships that are happening in sports arenas and things along those lines. A lot of great, exciting things to come.
And that's good with the sports. Like I think I saw something where the top 100 live sporting or live TV ratings were all sports. So the more you get into there.
Yeah.
So being in the global product position, I gotta imagine there's a huge difference, like North America versus other places with identity and privacy. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Identity, privacy, viewership, trends, things along those lines are all different. One of the great things that Samba does in this space is we have partnered with a number of TV OEMs to really diversify that and not be, hey, it's just the high-end TV sets that I know you're buying because you spend some money, sir. No, but it's across the full spectrum. So we're seeing tons of different households in all of these places. You can imagine in certain markets, this year we're going into India, Mexico, Brazil, and expanding our footprint there, that it's not the same homogenous set of people. And of course, privacy is very important. We are from the onset, very involved in making sure that we are not only watching out for what the consumers are doing, but also educating people in this space as to how important opt-in and opt-out and the simplicity of doing it means to a consumer.
We talked a little bit about this, but yesterday I had the pleasure of speaking with this Brand Innovators event, and our whole session was about market disruption and how you innovate. And I would imagine as a product lead, innovation is probably one of the things that you're thinking about. So could you just maybe not, it doesn't have to be Samba, but just sort of your point of view on how you can innovate and how you can make sure you're keeping an eye on market disruption to make sure that feeds into what your product is.
Yeah. There's a couple of things, right? Samba is at the source of our data collection, so we're not licensing a ton of it through. So we see those trends and those changes happening real time, and we are monitoring that data at that level to be able to see what's coming. So we are at that forefront. We're almost, like I mentioned, educating others to what is happening in terms of the trends that are coming up and the things that people should be looking for. A big part of our innovation is also the global piece of it. Going to new markets, exploring what's happening, and not simply just saying, hey, what's good for the US is good for the rest of the world, right? We actually look at things almost, I don't want to say the other way, but like a flat, even space to say, what does each market look like? I'd be remiss if I didn't mention agentic. So of
Bingo
course,
card. Let me just get that. That's right.
And there's a lot going on there, and we are on the forefront in that. We've been part of AdCP out of Brian O'Kelly's organization. So we were one of the founding folks involved there. Tons of innovation coming out of that. And I think a lot of innovation is also around how do you make things easier for everyone? And I'm hoping with this agentic world, not even hoping, that's what we're driving at, that we'll be making things easier for everyone, streamlining workflows, tons of innovation happening there. So let's put people's brain power back to work towards that innovation and clean up the things that are work that we don't want to do anymore. No one in this entire conference is saying, oh, I've actually got free time. Let's free up their time. And that's an innovation part that we're looking at across all of our clients with our data underlying to power that.
Speaking of the conference and time, I saw your schedule. I thank you for squeezing us in. So
Absolutely.
so let's talk a little bit about CES. So you've been here before. What's the vibe this year?
The vibe this year feels energy. Collaboration has been here the whole time, but this year you're seeing a lot more announcements that are not just two parties coming together, but multiple parties coming together. So I think that has been a big vibe that I've been feeling. And that's probably why my calendar looks the way it is, because we've got a lot of people lined up and we're trying to connect the dots for everyone as well.
I did a little fanboy yesterday. I walked into a session and Gary Vee was there. I'm like, oh my God, it's Gary Vee.
Yeah, I was in the same one. I took a picture and sent it to some people.
I love his idea, and I repeat it all the time, is you don't need to create all these different marketing pieces. You create it once and you do all these things from there, like you create the home video, so that's great.
Yeah.
Let's think about from your org, so your product team, what are you thinking about right now? And what are you going to be thinking about in a couple of years from now?
Yeah, so coming to Samba, at this point, I'm about 3-4 months young. A lot of it is around organization and how are we within our product organization creating handoffs between so that we're talking across and we are having a fundamental data layer that will feed all of the external products. So that is right in front of us right now. It's an organizational play. But then coming up, it's unlocking. We have talked about the agentic world, so that's a piece of it. But also, how do we, as Samba continues to be at the source of the data and the collection of it, how do we then make sure that we are covering mobile apps, audio, all these types of things out of home so that we're bringing that full view of the consumer to our clients? That's the kind of next thing that we're after, is really continuing to keep up with those trends and making sure that they are part of both our identity graph of bringing together those touch points of the identifiers, but also our knowledge graph, which extends out into all of the behavioral pieces, the attitudinal pieces, and the vectors that are along those.
Have you trademarked knowledge graph? Because I think we're going to steal that.
You'll have to see my slides. They're in our space. We've got it.
Okay,
it's ours.
So my last question too is, I know you're very not interested, but really focused on people and processes. Like, how do you get people to do things, like you had mentioned, collaboration, that maybe aren't in your org or in your sphere? So how, going into a new org, Samba, do you identify, hey, this is how Kelly does things versus what maybe Samba does?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've been great at in my career is coming into a place and saying, all right, this is how we're going to modernize and grow up. Again, everyone loves the concept of having time to think, like how many meetings we all have on our calendar. So when I come in and I say, hey, we're going to go ahead and create templates that like 80% of what we do is repetitive, right? So let's go ahead and create that. We know who's assigned to it. We know the handoffs. We know everything along those lines. The rest of the 20% is where your magic comes through.
Right.
People really glom onto that because that's what they want to be successful at. Also, selfishly, I tell people, listen, you're going to work great here, and I'm going to try to make sure that anywhere you go after this is going to be fantastic because we can prove that you're doing it here and that you're up the next level. I am not one who looks at someone's career as being like, you're going to only be here ever. I want to grow people, and I want them to be my boss in the future.
Oh my gosh, I want to give you my resume. This is sort of exciting for me, Nola. You know why?
I think I do.
This is the first time we've ever done a mobile podcast. So I'm like, I need to talk to a friendly. I need to get a friendly. And this is technically your fourth time, but you were sort of on the best of, which was 5. And then you were also part of the connected decisions that we just put out as an ebook on it. So you were sort of in that one too.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you keep on doing this with me, but thank you.
Because they're so fun, and you're so fun.
Thank you. Thank you for taking time to do all this stuff. And we're going to get into personal stuff about your book, because I've already said this you're going to do the announcement of your book. So before we get into that, I want to talk about, we're at CES. This is my first time. It's crazy. You're been around.
Yeah.
You've been to a couple of these.
Yeah, a couple times, a few, yeah.
So my question to you is, how is this? Is this one different? Does it have like a different feel? Like what? Tell me what the vibe is.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like every CES has a slightly different feel from the other CESs that came before. It's just like part of like what's been going on and like what's on everyone's mind. I think there's a lot of excitement kind of going around, but it's not quite like this frantic excitement that I felt last year. Last year, like AI was really just like brand new, and nobody really knew what to think about it or how to talk about it or how it was actually going to impact their businesses. But it was like obviously a hot topic, which it still is this year. But it was just a lot more like frantic sensations. And this year things feel a little bit calmer. Like people have a much better sense, even though it's still evolving so much, about what they're doing, how they're starting to implement it. There's still a lot of like back and forth around, hey, it's just like high level buzzword strategy talk versus like tactically, how is this actually getting put into applications? But we are seeing more and more of those. So that's like creating a lot of healthy discussion. And then on the flip side, you have a lot of like the legacy conversations.
Right.
Like it's really AI and data. Like that's what's dominating the conversations. And so one of them is newer, one of them is not so new, but they're both critical components and sort of interrelated with each other, right? And that's just kind of the new age of what ad tech is moving into, I think.
It's funny that you say AI and data. I had Kieran Kennedy from Snowflake, and he's like, before you can have an AI strategy, you need to have a data strategy. And it's sometimes that can be overlooked a little.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing that hasn't changed at CS is the lines.
Oh my gosh.
To get into the elevator, or the lines to get a cab or
Oh my
Uber.
gosh. Oh yeah, the lines to get in the elevator are ridiculous. Like you actually have to bake in like 30 minutes before the time that you, which no one has, by the way, because everyone's back to back, running all over the place.
My 5-year-old designed that. First of all, I don't have a 5-year-old.
No, I mean, but you would think that they would have learned by now.
They would have.
They just don't care. I don't know.
So when you're walking around and you, for people who haven't not heard Nola before, she was SVP at Criteo, did a lot of go-to-market strategy, has started her own business. So maybe from the go-to-market strategy lens, like what are you seeing out there? Like you're like, oh, I can really get into that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I mean, I think one of the things I've been seeing, especially as I launched my consultancy, has been there's a deep appetite for figuring out how do we talk about our solutions? How do we present ourselves? What's our value proposition? And how does that really land properly to our customer set on the one hand? And then two is how do we actually activate that effectively in the marketplace and make sure that we really are reaching the right personas and have the right like playbooks to go after that. A lot of people think they know what they're doing. Many actually admit that they don't. But then sometimes it's like the level of effort that you need to put into the work, the resources, the actual changing of processes that will go into place to actually make an impact is harder to digest. The cool thing is that there's a lot of, not quote unquote shortcuts, but AI is helping just eliminate a lot of the overhead costs that you would otherwise have needed a ton of human resources for. You can really get a lot done in a much shorter period of time. You can A/B test different things. You can kind of sanity check yourself with different AI tools, even basic ones that we use every day for all sorts of reasons. So I think, it's just an important part. You can have a business, like you have a product and your product can be amazing, but if you don't sell it and you don't continue to grow the scale of happy customers and new customers, then you don't really have a business, right? And so what's really awesome about ad tech is that there's so many businesses. There's these big guys and they're evolving that are more the legacy players. They're trying to think about how do they bring AI into the fold and how do they start to build it even natively if they can in certain pockets, and then how do they present themselves, and there's a whole new go-to-market motion attached to that. And then there's so many small startups that are just like blossoming, and I think we're going to continue to see that in 2026 and 2027 until they start getting gobbled up, of course. But that's even more critical. How do you break through the noise? How do you really position yourself as like a very specialist AI, ad tech, martech tool?
Right.
And then kind of how do you go after the sales that you need?
And that really fits in with your expertise of like storytelling, how you tell that story of what your product does, your go-to-market strategy. I want to get your reaction to something I've been thinking about. I'm going to speak at a Brand Innovators event tomorrow on obviously on brands. And one of my points tomorrow is like, it seems like this is the first time in a while that a brand isn't really fully in control of how their brand is perceived. because you've got things like AEO and GEO and this AI portion of it is like, how do I do it? So if I'm a brand coming to you for your consultancy expertise, how does my product show up? How does my brand show up?
Yeah.
What's your first little thought of trying to control what your brand is perceived as?
Well, I think you've hit on a couple of them, right? It's like, how is your brand showing up in GEO? How are you showing up within the agentic ecosystem, both in terms of as a brand perspective, but also in terms of what you're selling, right? And how commerce is changing from, the sort of search to open web kind of buying and even social buying into agentic buying, which, we're still in the early days of. So these are all things that you kind of need to think about in terms of what type of product you have, what's the right way to show up, and then who are your partners are going to help you assess how you're showing up. And there are obviously startups out there right now in our space that are trying to tackle that. The other thing I would say that I think is often overlooked is like, there's now so much evolution in terms of how you can actually activate your marketing spend. So, there's things as simple blunt instruments that have been used for ages, right? Which is like demographic targeting with like just general audience segments. But in reality, there's entire new measurement systems that you can put into place for metrics that become really relevant around, say, cultural relevancy and the identities and communities that people are part of, that your brand can show up authentically. Talk about storytelling. Like, this is the thing that gets me. We are also consumers. We see ads all the time. And half the time you don't even notice them. We probably notice them more than most because we work in the space. But think about the ones that like resonated for you, right? And maybe you didn't actually buy something in that moment. Maybe it wasn't the right moment for you to purchase a product that they're selling, or maybe it was a branding campaign, doesn't matter. The point is that it resonated for you because it tugged on an emotional heartstring. Something about it you identified with, right? With whatever it is that is part of your day-to-day life and that makes up who you are as a person. And I think brands can spend potentially now more time with some of the tools that are out there to think about how are they resonating with their intended audiences, the people they're trying to reach. There's a short-term strategy around like, let's just drive the sale or the KPI that we're looking for. And then there's a mid to longer term, which is we want to be that brand that they remember when they are in market for this, or that they think positively or speak positively of. And that ties to becoming part of somebody's culture, right? Even if you're not actually part of their day-to-day life necessarily. And I think there's cool stuff, there's some companies I've been involved in around building cultural intelligence engines to create a new metric around cultural relevancy. And there's a lot of other tools out there that are trying to solve some of this.
I love how you said intended customers. I think that's so important. And you bring up a lot of great points.
Too many at once.
Too many at once, because my brain's like, oh, I love how she said authentic. But I will tell you, when you said like we pay attention to ads because we're in the business, but and I'm going to quiz you on this one. My favorite marketing campaign is Kentucky Fried Chicken did a marketing campaign on Twitter.
Okay.
And they did it without telling anybody, no fanfare. They started following 11 people. Can you tell me who those 11 people are?
No.
Okay. What's their tagline? 11 herbs and spices. So they followed the 6 Spice Girls and 5 guys named Herb. Didn't tell anybody, organically it went, a guy found it. So I still remember things like that. And I feel like they weren't trying too hard.
That's clever.
Because I go back to, we've talked about being authentic and what you're doing. So speaking about what you're doing, if anybody's interested in getting a hold of you and learning more about what you consulting and your expertise, and let everyone know right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Also email me at nola@sagequill.co. Co, not com. But yeah, I'm always interested to chat with people, understand kind of the challenges they're facing and dive in. I think product is complex, technology is complex, being able to really like parse it out and understand kind of what the component pieces are, what you have and what you're actually putting together and the value you bring into the ecosystem. It sounds simple, but it's there's a whole motion to kind of getting that story right. And it's not one and done, it's iterative.
That's not one and done. Yeah. Like the things that you were talking about, it's a process and you need to have an overall strategy and one of those tactics to do that. So if someone's interested in go-to-market strategy, how to expand their product, how to tell a story, you're the person to help them.
I hope so.
So signing off, me and my co-host, Nola Solomon. I can't. You want to come back tomorrow and be number 5?
Yeah, I'll come back tomorrow. Yeah, let's just do a whole like week-long thing of it. Every day a little snippet.
I know you're joking, but I'm like, Oh my God, this sounds so good. Well, this is exciting. This is the Marketing Rapport podcast, and we've taken it on the road for the very first time. I think we've done like 50 episodes of this, and we've got all this equipment. We're coming to CES in Las Vegas, and Becky with me says, we're going to go record some podcasts. And that's what we did. And it's just been a great time here at CES. And a couple of the questions I've asked the people that have been on here, Barrett was great, Nola Solomon was great. Some of the vibe of CES. So Becky, you're in charge of our events, and you got us this great suite, and I would say is overall success. But could you tell me a little bit about your reaction to how CES went and the vibe down on the floor and your overall experience?
Absolutely. So, of course, it's an electronic show. You've got humanoids, you've got robots, but also talking about, the data aspect, the software aspect, which a lot of times gets overlooked when you're talking about electronics, and kind of the marrying of the two seems to be a theme that a lot of people are talking about. So it's a perfect fit for us to be here and talk about, how to improve the performance of your software and your electronics, your robots, good input, good output, that whole deal. So it's been a great week here. We've had some really great meetings, lots of prospects that we've talked to, lots of exciting things happening, changes happening, growth. Super excited how 2026 is posing to be. So I'm really excited.
Yeah. So when we first talked about this, it's like, oh yeah, no big deal. It's like the first week in January. It's like it came quick.
Really
but I'm
quick.
glad now that we're done with it.
Right. It feels like the end of January now.
It does. It's been a good show. And the other thing that you helped connect us with was Brand Innovators, which is if you don't know Brand Innovators, they do a lot of shows that maybe sort of follow on to like CES.
Partners.
So they're partners. So I was able to speak, and I mentioned in my discussion with Barrett about market disruption and brand transformation and innovation. And one speaker said they talked about, and we've said this before, you need a data strategy before you have an AI strategy, because agentic
Absolutely.
and AI. And so it's sort of what you said, data in, data out, or good inputs versus bad outputs. So let's talk a little bit about a big show like this. I want to get sort of into the details of how you tackle something like this big and get the output that we needed.
Absolutely. So it's all about the strategy. You can show up at show after show after show, but unless you're strategic with how you're showing up, it becomes just meetings and leads. So something we're working on this year is brand recognition, thought leadership. The more we can get people from the company like you to speak at those events and become an education authority where we're forward-looking, not just talking about what's happening right now. That's very important because there's so much change with the introduction of AI. It feels like it's been here forever, but in all actuality, like in the market, it's pretty new. So the entertainment factor of it and figuring it out and, I can ask it a question and it thinks for me. Now everyone's looking at being a little more strategic. So coming to events like this, we're able to get them to think a little bit differently and how our data can help you get better results, and positioning us to be able to get in front of those logos and those brand marketers and have those conversations that they're probably not even thinking about yet. So CES kind of positions us for the year and starting those conversations where, we've got LeadsCon coming up, we've got Possible coming up, we're showing up in a lot of ways coming up, and we can further the conversations like you had at Brand Innovators yesterday.
So just to my contacts in my network out there, watch out for texts and emails because when we're going on the road.
Right.
So, and
Lots of interviews.
Lots of interviews, and it's been really great. And Becky, thank you for all your efforts in getting this done. So that's it. Goodbye from CES.